If you're listening right now and AI feels overwhelming, threatening, or confusing, this conversation is for you. Not because you're behind, not because you're resistant, but because technology moves faster than people are prepared to emotionally process. Now, today we're talking not just about tools, we're talking about humans, teams, trust, and culture. My guest is a very special guest. Her name is April Elias. She is an AI implementation consultant who works inside organizations. And what makes her so different is that she doesn't just implement systems, she prepares people for them. April, I am so excited to have you on the show. I just want to really dive right into this because this is such an interesting topic. When companies say they're struggling with AI, what are they actually struggling with?
Oh, thank you, Stacey. That's a great question. So, when they say they're struggling with AI, a lot of times it's just because they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. They may have been granted a budget to say, hey, we just want to AI our team, our company. And then everyone's just kind of left, shrugging their shoulders, not knowing where to start because the readiness isn't there and there's just not enough education or resources. And it's like, hey, this got plopped on us. We don't want to get left behind. And everyone's feeling really excited or they're really nervous.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of times it's based on fear?
Yes, I think it's fear of getting either left behind or fear of not having the capacity to learn something that seems so technically dense when it's actually not. And there's just a lot of misunderstanding, and everyone seems to be mystified if they haven't taken the leap to go ahead and start trying to work with some AI tools. So once we can demystify everything around AI, people are, naturally a little bit more relaxed. Their brains start to unlock. And so it's really exciting to see for the people who are ready to embrace it.
I like that. Now, is it also that leadership is not knowing how to communicate change? Like all this change is going on, they understand it, but they just don't know how to communicate it to the rest of the team?
Yes, and historically, any type of technology has always had a high failure rate in that category. So, technology transformation or implementation, specifically the change in communication around technology, has just fallen off a cliff. People, maybe 40% of the people actually end up using the technology, and the opportunity is missed with the change in the communication piece. And in AI, it's even higher because people just are confused. And so a confused mind says no. And similarly, usually companies, managers, leadership, they're so super busy, heads down, and they feel like they don't have the time or the capacity to learn all these new things either.
Right. And I could definitely see that. Now, you've said AI implementation isn't like a tech problem, it's a mindset and a communication problem. Like, what fears do you see show up, most often when it comes to teams?
I would say a lot of the is around maybe their privacy or their thoughts. Is it going to steal all my ideas? Is it going to take my job? And just feeling like they need to know how to code. A lot of people are like, I don't even know how to use AI and I'm not technical. I don't know how to code or program. And that's not the case at all. And I see that firsthand because usually where I start is I'll start with leadership teams. And we'll go in, we'll do a readiness assessment. I'll do a little quiz in advance just to see what kind of archetypes exist in that team. And then once I have that, I can customize the message to the audience. So I'm speaking their language and we do breakouts and I match up different archetypes so they can vibe and kind of play off of each other. And so when we get into like a real human setting, before we even open laptops or do anything, and we go through exercises like that, things start to click and they start to understand where they're at and they don't feel so overwhelmed.
Oh, I see. Now, so resistant doesn't mean that people are lazy or it's too difficult. It means that they don't feel safe or informed.
Exactly. Or they feel like it's perhaps some type of technology that's going to take over the world and they don't want to participate in pushing that forward. And so I think, I've heard that consistently almost in every single one of my workshops that people are afraid that robots are going to take everything over and destroy humans. So, yeah, it's
I hear
definitely a
that
fear.
all the time.
Yeah.
Now, you developed a, priority of AI readiness assessment. Like when you say AI readiness, like what does that really mean beyond the skills?
So before we even get to the skills or the technology, it deals with the mindset. And so when we deal with the mindset and we understand where people's fears exist or their overexcitement exists, because that's a problem just in a different category. When we figure out where that is, we can level set that and make some meaningful progress forward.
Hmm. Now, what do leaders often miss? Like when you're analyzing, you're with working with teams, are there certain things that leaders often miss when it comes to this?
Yes, they miss the actual dynamics of the personalities on their teams. They miss playing into their strengths. They miss the opportunity to try to not only align with their skills, because they don't even always have to align with their skills. AI
Yeah,
can do some of these skills. And it's
right,
more about let's align with their domain expertise, because that's where AI falls short. AI is really good at sounding right all the time. But
right,
if I asked it to produce a legal document for me, I'm not a lawyer, it'll put something out that I think looks amazing and correct, but because I'm not a lawyer and I don't have the domain expertise, I can't find the errors in it. So
right.
it's about looking across your team, saying, where are their superpowers essentially, whether they're technology superpowers or whether it's domain expertise, like I said, and then just trying to align on that first and get people excited. Because if they're not excited or if they don't see what's in it for them, that's the
Yeah,
other thing is a lot of leaders aren't saying, what's in it for my team? Like, why would my team do this? It's
yeah,
more than like, let's just make the company more profitable. You have to, kind of connect with them and say what's in it for them. And then that's a byproduct, right? The company doing better is a byproduct of us just doing the right thing, meeting people where they're at, and helping them just amplify from there.
oh, that's so true. Now, why does readiness, why is it emotional and not just technical?
It's emotional because so when you hit on the readiness to do something, it has to be emotionally resonant for someone to feel good about doing it and want to do it, right? So it's kind of like that push pull. If I feel like I'm pulling you to this because I want you to do, like or I'm pulling you and you don't feel pulled to do it because you love it, that's a totally different type of situation and people just tend to shut down and ultimately everyone leaves the experience or the relationship dissatisfied. But if there's a way for us to feel like, oh, I'm pulled to do this because this is meaningful work, this is good. Because at the end of the day, the work that we do, we all want to feel like it is meaningful. We want to see it come to life. We want to see our contributions be
Yeah,
valued by other people and in other situations. And when we're able to do that, then again, everything else about productivity and increased profit and all of the reasons companies want to implement AI, that's just a byproduct. It's almost like you don't have to worry about it if you
yeah,
worry about the people first.
exactly. Now, how do you think like culture determines success or failure?
I would say so. The reason that culture for sure determines success or failure is because the reasons that we work, right? So the reasons that we work are if we know our why and why we work, some people are like, I just go to work because I have to, pay because I have to. And
Yeah,
so if you can establish a culture of where it doesn't I mean, this is lack of a better term, but we always try to make everyone feel like it's family. Like we're good
yeah,
friends, we're family, we have each other's back. You can reach out anytime and you make time for each other. I feel like when we can just, if the general sentiment is if they feel like safe to do so, or like they're not being annoying, or like you know, they have this space and to actually connect, then
yeah,
there's definitely that's a huge piece of culture because it seems like it's kind of silent sometimes, and sometimes it
yeah,
seems like it's glaringly obvious, but it's kind
right.
of an invisible element that moves everyone.
That's so true. Now, let's talk about talent. Like, how does AI change roles, identity, and confidence inside the organization?
So, as far as people either upskilling their talent or when we're looking to hire talent,
So, when they're trying to upscale their talent.
oh, so when they're trying to upskill their talent. So, when teams take the approach to identify opportunities to upskill their talent, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that I mean, you could just, and this is one of my favorite ways to identify who we can upskill in talent is to say, hey, what's on your desk that takes you 10 hours that should take you one, right?
Right.
Is there an opportunity to do that? Instantly, they get the value. We don't have to say, this is why we're doing this, this is what's in it. They instantly figure out that's what's in it for them. And
Yeah.
so when you're speaking to their pain points, so it's all about like figuring out their pain points that as it relates to the company's pain points, how can I make your job easier? And then when they contribute to that, in a perfect world, it would be great if I didn't spend 10 hours a week doing scheduling. Oh, well, let me enhance your capabilities within your role by giving you maybe like an intelligent AI scheduling tool that
Right.
if somebody needs to do whatever, I mean, there's so many use cases for that I'd say that's one of my favorite ways is just kind of in really super plain English saying, how can we make your life easier?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the fear of replacement versus augmentation, like people are so fearful that they're going to be replaced because of AI. What's the fear of replacement versus augmentation?
I would say that they're going to feel like they possibly feel like insignificant and where will they fit in after,
Right.
right? And that's a real emotion and a real fear to deal with. And then again, it just goes back to the opportunity on how can we go back to the person or the team? Because a lot of people don't even realize their transferable skills because they might say, well, I'm just a carpenter or whatever, right? They might
Yeah.
say whatever their role is, even though trades are really great to be in, and there's a lot of AI that can help in that area too.
Yeah.
People that might not be glaringly obvious, but it's a matter of helping them identify their transferable skills and how they could possibly pursue ways to enhance those. And there's so like for teachers, for example, actually that's probably a good example. Teachers are like, well, they're just going to get an AI tutor, or they're just going to get they're not, a lot of there's a lot of talk about, trying to replace teachers, and that's a huge mistake, right? That's a
Yeah.
huge mistake because how many times have you heard this hero's journey? And part of that hero's story is I had a teacher, a mentor, some type of guide in my life that really changed my course of my life, or
Yeah.
and the idea is, and it's because it was a human that did that. And so
Yeah.
teachers a lot are feeling insignificant in that role based on how they're being treated in their particular
Right.
position. But yeah, I mean that's probably one that's an opportunity to identify those transferable skills. And even if they didn't want to stay a teacher, they have a lot of skills that could translate to other industries that would have huge impact.
Yes. And I think that's so important to understand because, like, our audience, we had somebody come on the show and they talked about the replacement of AI, and the fears of being replaced by it. And the views went through the roof because there's so many people out there that fear that they're going to be replaced by AI.
Yeah.
And it's a real issue in people's heads. But like we mentioned before the conversation, people will always need human interaction with other human beings, and AI will never be able to replace that.
Exactly. And I just feel like the fear about being replaced is just more, it's in everyone's awareness more now because of the hype around AI. So that
Yeah,
same fear existed starting about 20 years ago when automations started kind of being like mainstream, but that was more, I guess, in an enterprise environment, they're like, oh, they're going to automate my job. I'm the manual person who does the thing and I pull the lever and I push the button. And now automation does that. So it's
yeah.
not a new fear. It's just a new fear it just has a new reach, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Because if you think about the past, like when computers first came out, people were terrified of computers and they thought
Yes.
computers were going to take over people's jobs, when computers came out. And obviously it was more of a helpful tool. It was not the replacement of human beings, but it was the same exact fear. When computers first came out for the very first time, people were so fearful, just like they are fearful of AI.
hmm Exactly. And so that's an excellent point because I've hired through some major disruptions in just industry broadly. So I started recruiting just before Y2K when everyone
Yeah.
thought their bank balance was going to go to zero when it went from 1999 to 2000. And
Yeah.
companies were paying like ridiculous amounts of money to IT talent, essentially.
Right.
But there's that. And then there is certainly the crisis of 2008, the financial crisis. So
Hmm.
I was someone who people, I mean, I was an executive search. People weren't saying, "Hey, April, let me pay you to go hire me someone." Essentially, a lot of people were getting downsized and let go and laid off. Again,
Yeah.
a lot of fear. But the people who survived or the people who pivoted, right, and they embraced the change and they looked at all of the opportunities and the change and the challenges, those are the ones who stood out. The same thing happened during COVID, and the same thing is happening in AI. Those are
Yes.
big, major disruptors. And when people can just pivot a bit and just say, you know what, there's always opportunity and challenge, and there's always opportunity when things are disrupted. Let me just kind of focus on where those opportunities are for me to maximize on.
Yeah.
And then they essentially become fearless in a lot of ways.
100%. Now, how can, leaders protect their trust, during change, because a lot of times, leaders can protect their trust with teams, because they feel that AI is going to take over and their team is scared and fearful. So how do we bring that trust into play where everybody, they're learned to trust that the person who's in charge, and that they get rid of that fear. Do you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times leaders, they walk into a room where AI is now taking over a lot of things, and they have to trust the person who's in charge. They have to trust what they say. They have to believe in that leader. How can we teach leaders to work with their team and really bring that trust into play?
Yeah, I think a lot of that just goes to when a leader is working with a team, just in general, is to say, be the one that, I'm in it with you. I'm here to support you. I'm learning, right? When they can just be a bit vulnerable and
Yeah.
honest with the situation, like, I don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months because I mean, always, we've had to hire for things that we didn't know were going to exist. Like I had to, it got really interesting when I had to start hiring like AI researchers, AI engineers, architects, all of these new essentially titles. They didn't exist on LinkedIn. I didn't know what to title them, but we needed them because we had an AI, machine learning, and data science team. Historically, these are
Exactly.
data scientists largely. And so it's like it gets really interesting when you have to hire for skills that don't exist yet. So not
Yeah.
only are you hiring for stuff that nobody has experience in it yet, but you're also trying to hire for what is going to exist. So you have to be a little futuristic. And
Right.
so when you can share with the team, hey, this is where we're at. I really don't, we're in this together, and just know that I'm committed to having your back in whatever scenario it is, that we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I feel like it just unlocks for people, and it just helps them like, get some traction for sure.
Oh, I agree with you. So basically, it's AI doesn't eliminate people; it exposes leadership gaps, is what it really does.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing that leaders fear, to get on the leaders' fear,
Yeah.
is they fear that I'm paying somebody 40 hours a week and they're going to AI their job and get it done in 10. What can I do to fill that space of the perceived 30 hours that they got back? And
Right.
so there is that dilemma of, yes, AI enhances productivity, but then there's a dilemma of now I have all of these ideas. So we actually have to get good at being like idea killers sometimes, because you can quickly trigger and act on an idea, have 72 tabs open, feel like you're being productive. The attention and the focus is completely diluted and you actually got nowhere at all. And
Exactly.
so one of the things that I do with teams is because when you unlock essentially their access and their capabilities to do that, it's almost like they have to go really crazy, go down a rabbit hole, make some mistakes, and then adjust and say, well, I need to qualify what I'm actually going to AI. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And prioritize, what we're going to AI. So if I AI something that we do once a quarter and it takes me so much time to do that, is that valid? No. So my advice to leaders and to people who are working on teams is say, qualify the ideas that you have just for, I guess, enterprise value or team value, because if it's something that saves, daily, and it seems kind of obvious, just like
Yeah.
change management and communication seems obvious, it's on
Yeah.
everybody's list. Everybody's like, hey, it's a great idea. Well, it'd be so great if we just manage through these charging times with really good change management and communication. It's just not always done well. So
Yeah.
when team members and leaders can focus on getting that stuff done well, it's the simple things that actually have the most amount of value that I'm just seeing firsthand.
Right. Now, if a leader is listening right now and thinking, okay, I want to do this right, where do I start? Like, what are the three best practices that you recommend before rolling out AI?
So I recommend just taking a bit of a skills and interest inventory. You can have that be fun. You can workshop that out. You can, have a team meeting or something, get everybody together, buy them lunch, have a working lunch, kind of workshop that out, like, and then give them the opportunity to say, what would I have AI do for me? If I just had this genie in a bottle and I had these three wishes, what would I have AI do for me? And then
Right.
just have everyone, express what that is. And that's fun and it's funny. So whether it's personal or whether it's work related, it's a really fun exercise to just have people connect as humans again. And then say, okay, great. Like, let's pick a couple ideas and let's workshop this particular use case. And let's map out, whiteboard, whatever, our actual system. And I don't mean technology when I say system. I mean, what's our
Yeah.
system? Like, you went to a networking meeting and your system is you got a business card and you manually put it in your phone and whatever. So
Yeah.
whether it's a manual system or whether it's a technology, just kind of map that out. And when people get that visibility, because they often don't zoom out far enough. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying go into all of the branches of if this, then that, and you'd be
Yeah.
there for a month. I'm just saying, the core framework, like zoom out, because then you
Yeah.
get some clarity. And then you can say, oh, I really have some visibility on my constraints here. And, this is duplicating efforts anyway. Even without technology, we can get rid of this step because that's redundant and kind of silly. And so when you're able to zoom out and pull some of those things out of the mix, people are
Yeah.
already feeling better. They're already feeling more efficient. And then the next thing is, then you can decide, is this technology, if there's a technology in place, cool. Is it the right technology or is that redundant? And then where's an opportunity to automate, right? So can we
Right.
automate this and make everybody's life easier? And then from there, then you think about using AI. So I use AI as like a finishing move when I'm thinking about that, right? I don't
Yeah.
always want to plug AI in from the beginning and in everything because it doesn't make sense. And who
Right.
is the best human in the loop to have at what stage? Because if the AI goes rogue, hopefully we've done a risk assessment that it's not going in a place to where, oh no, we have to issue a public apology. We can safely pull it out, let the core framework go, and then rethink that. And so you can use AI to tighten up roadmaps, right? Tighten up playbooks, tighten up strategies, and you with your own domain expertise qualify those. And so when you start to workshop out things like that, people literally light up. And
Yeah.
I would say that's the place to start because it's super impactful. And you just can talk about the technology later because it'll be a natural conversation. People won't feel like, I don't know. I didn't have time to catch up on what Copilot does, and you just rolled it out. And I just only use ChatGPT as Google or whatever the case may be.
Right. So it's, really it's like communication before implementation, education before expectations, and then evolvement before enforcement, really.
Yeah. And getting people hands-on and engaged, right? So
Yeah.
communicating is one thing and engaging is another. So if you can pull them in and engage them, then it just kind of takes off from there.
Oh, I agree so much. Once you get people into it and then people actually learn about it hands-on, it makes such a big difference than when you're just giving them the information. Once they actually do it, it's like, ah, the light bulb goes
Yes.
off, you know?
Yes. Yes. And they're instantly empowered. And then they start thinking of, I can organize my personal life this way, or I can use it as a travel planner, or whatever the case may be. People will think of a million ways to learn it or to use it in their personal life as additional enhancements. And I always underestimate the audience that just hasn't even touched it. Right.
Right.
I'm always going into a workshop thinking, what I'm going to say feels like I'm teaching people how to send an email, right? So that's
Yeah.
what I'm always thinking because I work on my content. I freshen it up the last 24 to 48 hours before I deliver anything. The core framework is the same, but because it moves so fast, I have to adjust real time because it's
Right.
like neck break speed. But it's like, well, you know, I deliver stuff and I'm like, oh, you know, did I tell you everything that you already know? And
Yeah.
at least half the room is like, wow, or just teaching them like some best practices. So
Yeah.
once you're disarming in that exercise that kind of lets them own the process and contribute to the process, then you start to show them, well, here's some rules of the road. Right.
Right.
So things don't go off the rails. And then they're more receptive to the rules of the road because it makes sense. And they're like, well, I get
Right.
why it's in it for me. What's in it for me is because now there's some guardrails. And sometimes people are like, here's our policy. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't use AI in the shadows because there's a lot of AI shadow use in companies that they're concerned about. And that's a valid, real concern. And everybody's just figuring out AI policy and compliance. But it's
Yeah.
like, you know, if you start with them, just start with them, then everything else, again, is a byproduct. And the adoption just goes through the roof.
Right. So one thing that I love about your work is that you meet people where they're at. Why is it so important when it comes to AI to meet people where they're at?
Because ultimately, if you meet someone where they're at, that will if you meet them where they're at and you're able to help them connect dots on how this can
Yeah.
be an enhancement or an augmentation,
Right.
that that reduces that reduces fear
Yeah.
tremendously. And it reduces confusion. And when people are in fear and in confusion, they make mistakes, and that is a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to have that experience, and nobody wants to leave a job feeling like, oh my gosh, I just got, upgraded out of my job because there was a software update or a system update.
Right.
So because ultimately we need people to run these things. And so one of the things that I've created around this specifically for people that I do for individuals and then I also do for teams, it's this concept of the superhuman in the loop. So not just the human in the loop, it's the
Yeah.
superhuman in the loop. That of course they're AI empowered, but they're a mindful leader, they're a thoughtful leader, a servant leader in a lot of ways that's meaningful because again, it's just you're able to tap into human potential and AI at the moment, unless somebody's starting it up, right? Yes, agents can go do things, but you have to create the agent, right? If you want an
Right.
agent to do something for you, you create the agent. It could go do its agentic things. But I think that's why it's so important to meet people where they're at for sure.
I agree with you. So it doesn't have to be about pushing adoption. It's about really building confidence and competence.
Yeah. And they can decide that that's not for them too. And that's fine. Right? If they're like,
Right.
oh, this whole tech thing isn't for me, I mean, because
Yeah.
here, just the tech thing. So my mom prefers a phone that has buttons, right? She just wants a flip phone. She's like, I don't even have an email. My 85-year-old grandfather is putting up Facebook posts, right? So there's just your level of interest and he's commenting and liking on my stuff and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, Papa, that's pretty great that you're like in there
Yeah.
doing things.
That's
And
awesome.
so and so you can let people off the hook and say, if you don't want to do this, but at least they have enough information so they
Yeah.
decide. So it's their decision versus saying, I just got left behind by technology because, I'm not tech savvy. It's like, oh, I get this. I understand it. And I'm
Yeah.
choosing not to, which is totally fine too.
Right. So really, change doesn't have to be traumatic. It's what you're comfortable with. It's how you're taught, and it's really like really diving in and giving it a try, and so you can understand it when you do it hands on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when AI is implemented well, what does the future of work actually look like in your eyes?
So when AI is done well, when it's done well, it's not one person just doing the work of 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. It's not
Right.
that. I believe when AI is done well, it's actually a team of people. It's a team of these superhumans in the loop. They don't all have to be AI enabled because you don't need everybody on your team to be AI enabled depending on what your business is. And it says, and also your ideal client profile, consider that person in mind too, right? Because everybody who's in business has a client of some sort and they're all different, right? So
Exactly.
it's a matter of just identifying the best people that would be a great addition to the team based on the mission, right? The
Right.
mission, the values, can they get behind the mission? You and I'm a big fan of hiring more about alignment on the vision and where we're going
Yeah.
versus saying we just need to crank all these things out. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. So I would say in a perfect world, it would be a team of people. So because
Yes.
it's fun to do business with the team with teammates, right?
Right.
What are you just gonna talk shop to your agents? Like, sure, you
Hmm.
could, but people are fun, right? So I like the idea of like pods of people essentially or teams of people that yeah, they're amplifying their efforts, 100x amazing. But when something goes sideways, everything is not your problem. So if
Yes.
you do it alone, everything's your problem. You really can't unplug. You really can't go on
Exactly.
vacation. I mean, I set an agent out on, oh my gosh, probably about 2.5 years ago. Big mistake. I set a agent out when my husband and I went on an anniversary trip to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And I spent a day and a half reeling in a rogue agent. So it was like because I deployed it, because it was me and it was my use case and it was my thing, it was all my problem. And I wasted a day and a half on the Amalfi Coast dealing with a rogue agent. So
Yeah.
when you have team and support and backup, it's like not everything's my problem. And plus it's helpful to have, at least a team of people to help solution and troubleshoot. Sure, you
Yeah.
could screenshot and put something in ChatGPT or whatever
Exactly.
AI you're using and say, this is what happened. But I can tell you firsthand, even those screenshots, copying, pasting code, all of that stuff, I've trouble like troubleshooting using those methods can be
Yeah.
helpful. It's not always right. So
Right.
unless you're a programmer, and I've learned that the hard way, just wasting cycles trying to get stuff done. It's nice to have a mix of skills and then play
Yes.
off each other in a traditional way as well.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Now,
Yeah.
tell me a little about some of the services that you provide.
Yeah. So some of the services I provide start with the teams and start with the people. So individuals or teams. So if you're interested in working with me, my favorite thing is workshops. Like I love workshops because people just vibe off of each other and there's so
Yes.
much creativity and ideas. And so I can come in and I can do either a day workshop or if it's a longer effort, I can deal or I can, work with people who have a longer type of roadmap or a longer type
Yeah.
of initiative, depending on the size of the team and
Mhm.
how much of the team is impacted. So, depending on size and scope, it could be day, it could be weeks, it could be months.
Yeah.
And then the other part is I do have a lot of free resources where people can learn. Because I do a lot of education that I repurpose. And if
Yeah.
someone needs that's valuable, you can just scoop it up for free, right? You just go to my website and it points to all the directions what you might need. But
Yeah.
or I do work with some people one-on-one if they are, and the one-on-ones that I do, if they're not an individual trying to just become the superhuman in the loop, they're usually a business owner or an entrepreneur trying to
Yeah.
scale in a meaningful way.
Right.
And yeah, there's lots of different ways. But that's where I love to start. I love to start with the people, not the tech, not the AI, not the system, not your thing. I start with the
Right.
people.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Now, if you had to leave today, right now, at this moment, before you go, what are three takeaways that you want people to remember from this conversation?
So I would say the number one takeaway is just let yourself off the hook and don't hold yourself to everyone's perceived expectations of how you should be working with AI. Just let yourself off the hook for that right now, for sure. And if you're curious or you're afraid, I would encourage you to at least interact with
Mhm.
a free tool free version, even if it's, Claude, any of the main ones, everybody knows who they are, ChatGPT,
Yeah.
Claude, Gemini. Probably Gemini is pretty easy because most people have a Gmail. You just click it open, boom, right there, start typing, and just
Right.
see how it goes, see how it plays back and forth. And then if you have a question, like if you get stuck, just go
Mhm.
ahead and ask it back, what would you do? Or just say, I'm
Right.
stuck here, what would you do? And so I feel like that helps people qualify if it's a technology that they'd like to participate in or not. And
Yeah.
then, regardless if you choose to participate in it or not, I would still, stay in the know because meaning like, I'm not saying you have to consume the AI news every day, but have a
Right.
general awareness about where it's going and
Yeah.
what things are happening because there may be an opportunity to where you could be an industry disruptor in a really good way, or you
Yeah.
could have an impact, or you could leverage it in within your own community to have a meaningful impact because you just never know. You're like, I never would have thought that. And it could be some really game-changing stuff.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Now, can you tell everybody your website address where they can
Yeah,
find you?
yeah, thank you. It's just my name. It's aprilelias.com, Elias, April like the month. And that essentially is the hub to where you can access whatever it is that you're interested in, free resources or working with me directly.
I love it. I love it. So if you're listening and AI has felt intimidating, disruptive, or unsettling, hear this clearly. The problem isn't you. The problem isn't AI. The problem is skipping the human part of change. April, this has been amazing. I'm so glad you came on the show because there are so many people out there that are so scared of AI. They fear the things that they hear on the internet or things people say that aren't true, or they just don't know how to use it, with someone like yourself who could teach them how to use it. They could teach them personally in their personal lives. They can teach them at work how they can incorporate it into a team and actually really thrive off of it. And then all those tools you can bring home to your personal life, and you can actually implement a lot of those things in the things that you do at home to make things easier for yourself. And there's so many opportunities when it comes to AI, and people don't even realize how many great opportunities AI could be our friend. We just have to learn how to use it and use it the right way. And so I'm so glad that you have all these different services and programs that you offer, that you could actually help people and help teams and really show people through your speaking skills how to go from step one to step 10 and not be overwhelmed by it, because you have such great ideas. And I love everything that you've shared today on this show. I hope you'll be back. I really love to really get it more deep into AI with you, because there's so many different aspects of AI that we haven't even touched base on that I think would be so helpful for our listeners because they're very interested in AI. But thank you today for sharing all this information, and just thank you for everything that you're doing. It's just amazing where what you've developed and how much it's helping so many people out there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stacey. This was fun. It's my favorite topic. So happy to revisit it anytime.
Wonderful. I look forward to talking to you soon. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.